MercytheMad here, and today we've got a Norsca video. Norsca actually got a bit of an update recently in the December 2020 update that released alongside the Twisted and the Twilight DLC. There were some ancillaries or followers and banners that were apparently bugged and they weren't dropping for Norsca. So CA have apparently fixed that now, and so those extra banners and ancillaries will drop in the game. So I thought this would be a great time to have a look at the ancillaries that are available for Norsca and how you can kind of stack and farm those. After that, I've got a brief guide on how to defeat your starting enemy, the Skaeling, and confederate them, just to get a quick start to the campaign for Wulfrik. First off, a quick shout out to Cpecific for his ultimate ancillary guide on Steam Guides. He's already updated this for the Twisted and the Twilight, so you can check out the new ancillaries for Norsca. One of the first ones I want to look at is the Huskal. Gives you +5 movement range. This is one of the ones you can easily get by having your hero units just leave and rejoin your armies. Kurgan's Slave Merchant gives you +10% income from post-battle loot and +10 income from sacking settlements. You get this on 10% chance anytime you loot a settlement belonging to the Empire. So I don't know whether you can stack this on multiple heroes in an army to get really high sacking income. That would be great if you can. I get a feeling it might only be for Lords though. They also have Student. Now this one you can only get if your hero or Lord ranks up while you're not researching anything. It's quite a high chance, 13%, so if you've got a few heroes in your army and you're fighting multiple battles and stuff, it's quite a high percentage, but it's only while you're not researching anything. Now you can kind of hack this by, whenever you know you're going to have a couple of battles, just go to your research queue and stop your research so you're not researching anything, fight your battles, and then resume your research before the end of the turn so you don't lose any research time. Another movement one that they get is Mountain Scout. Now this one's interesting because you can only get it if you rank up before level 11. So any heroes or lords that are lower than rank 11, every time they rank up, regardless of what they're doing, 5% chance to get it. But sort of one of those weird instances where you might want to actually recruit a lord or a unit at rank 1 rather than at a different building or with a different character that's got a higher recruit rank. The last ancillary I wanted to talk about was Mutant, which I think is a potential standout of the roster ancillaries for Norsca. This one gives you -4 enemy leadership in the local region, and I assume it stacks. Normally these sort of -4 minus leadership in local region ones do stack. I haven't confirmed that though yet, so I'll be eager to check that out. And I'm not sure whether it can be equipped by heroes or not, but assuming it can, it could be really powerful. And also I think it's pretty easy to farm as well. All you have to do is lose or draw a battle. So basically, if you've got a sack city, for example, you can just get an army that's stacked with like 4 or 5 heroes, attack the sack city, then just withdraw from the battle, just take a loss and flee the battlefield, and then every hero in that stack and the Lord has got a 6% chance to get you one of these mutants. So maybe don't do it with Wulfrik or one of your good lords. Just switch out like another lord that you don't like very much, so that if he gets some bad traits from losing heaps of battles, it won't affect you too much. Okay, so if you're as keen as I am to check out these new ancillaries for Norsca, here's a quick 4-turn guide on how to confederate Skaeling as fast as possible and just get a bit of a head start for your Wulfrik campaign.
Undeniable.
First turn, you want to recruit a second lord. Ideally, you want to get a trait like Infernal Dominance, which gives +5 melee attack to every unit in the army, or you want to get Mishappen, which gives -5 leadership to any enemies within the same region. You can still do it with weaker traits on the lords if you don't want to restart, but some of those traits can make it potentially a lot easier. Next, you want to recruit 3 hunters with Wulfrik's army. You don't actually want to put it near your starting settlement though. Move up near the border and go into your raiding camp stance. That'll actually reduce the upkeep a lot. Turn 2, recruit another lord. Take the lord that you recruited on turn 1 and put him in march stance and move the maximum distance that you can towards the Skaeling. Move Wulfrik right up to the border, then recruit 3 more hunters, and then go back into raiding camp stance again. And then end turn. Now turn 3, take the lord that has advanced the furthest towards Doom Keep, and then move him carefully so that you save 25% of your movement so you can put him into raiding camp stance. Next, take Wulfrik, put him in march stance so he can catch up to the other lord and transfer the units into the lord that's in raiding camp stance. That'll save you the upkeep, and if you were to get attacked, they'll have a little bit of extra melee defense as well. Select your third lord, put him in march stance, and just move him as far as you can towards catching up with your first two lords. Since you've finished recruiting for now, demolish your sparring fields for a few hundred extra gold. And end turn. Move your first two armies closer to Doomkeep, making sure that you save 25% of your movement so that you can put them back into raiding camp stance to get the extra defensive bonuses. Also, if you do have an Infernal Dominance Lord that has the +5 melee to units in his army, make sure that you transfer the units into his army so that they'll get the buff. Select your third lord and march him up to be within reinforcement range of the other two. At this point, I always like to try to recruit a unit over the end turn. It doesn't matter what unit, but I think that the enemy factions will be more likely to try to attack you if you're recruiting, so they can stop your recruitment, and we want to try to draw the enemy army out of Doomkeep so that we can have an easier battle. Now you should be all set. Just end turn and wait for the Skaeling to attack you over the end turn. Now you can just auto-resolve this battle. You'll probably take pretty high casualties, which means that you won't be able to conquer the Hellspire tribe on turn 5 or 6 if you want to do that. But I don't necessarily recommend that you do that. It's up to you. But if you do want to take out the Hellspire tribe immediately after this, then you'll probably have to fight this battle manually. I fought this battle was to put my lords and my melee infantry in a blob well forward of my hunters and other units. You can place the blob in the forest to get a little bit of extra missile block from missiles hitting the trees. And if you keep your other missile infantry, your hunters, far enough back, hopefully the enemy army won't sort of target them. They'll focus on your infantry blob. So the infantry blob serves a few functions in this situation. One, you're spreading the damage around your infantry units, so they're not going to take a large amount of damage in a short amount of time, which will give them a leadership shock, so they're a little bit more resilient in that way. Plus you've got your lords and a bunch of infantry all stacked in the one place, so it's a lot of balance of power. So the enemy army will also stack a lot of units in the same area to try to balance out that balance of power so they don't have a leadership disadvantage, which means that they'll group up, which gives you a nice target for you to be able to use Wulfrik's ability. Basically, we're doing a skelly spam Winds of Death type of tactic, except for using Marauders and Seafang as a sort of budget Winds of Death. The blob should do a reasonable job at tanking most of their infantry, but a number of their infantry units are probably going to peel off and start trying to harass your hunters. That's fine. That's the whole point of this tactic, to sort of split their army. So with the smaller number of units chasing after your hunter, you can manage that a lot better by sort of like fate charging or actually charging with your chariot and your skin wolves. Both the chariot and the skin wolves cause fear. If you've got the traits misshapen, then the enemy is getting a -5 or -10 if you've got two lords with misshapen like I do in this battle, to penalty to their leadership. So you can quite easily kind of destroy them one by one using your hunters to do the damage, and then your wolves and chariot to come in to kind of finish them off. Remember to keep checking Wulfrik to make sure that you use Seafang again as soon as it comes off cooldown. Now that you've got the enemy grouped up in a blob around your infantry blob, the target's there, you just need to use it as quickly as you can, and that's going to help your guys hold out longer as well if you can do more damage to the enemy units. If the enemy lord is focused on your infantry blob, hopefully you've got your 3 lords there and they can sort of gang up on the enemy lord and defeat him in the infantry blob. In this case, the enemy lord kind of ran out and chased after my hunters, which worked out well. My hunters could shoot him down and rout him off at the field. It's probably also a good idea not to put your infantry blob really close to the edge like I did in this battle, because your units will probably rout, and if they're that close then they're going to rout straight off the field and they're not going to come back. Particularly if Wulfrik or one of your lords routes, there's a good chance they could come back and be useful if you're a bit closer to the middle. This particular battle didn't go completely according to plan because one of my lords reinforced my weird direction and he wasn't able to actually get into the melee blob with the other infantry. If all 3 lords had been there with the infantry, probably the leadership would have been a bit more durable and they wouldn't have broken quite so fast. In terms of lord traits, in this particular battle I had 2 lords with the trait misshapen, so they stacked, so the enemy had -10 to their leadership. Marauders already have pretty weak leadership anyway, so that probably made this battle quite a lot easier. One of the previous tests I did, or 2 of the previous tests I did, both times I got Infernal Dominance and Misshapen, so I had the Infernal Dominance leading my army, giving +5 melee attack to all my guys, and I had -5 to the enemy leadership, and that was quite good as well. It's just lucky that I got good traits on most of the ones that I did. But yeah, depending on how your battle goes and depending what traits that you got on your lords, it could be quite a bit more difficult. Assuming you win the battle, you'll be offered the chance to confederate the Skaeling, and the Skaeling army will be added to your forces. So you'll have 4 units in the area, and in this case, the Hellspire tribe have actually moved out of Grayling Moot to make it a bit easier for you to attack them because they don't have the garrison to support them. I don't think that the Skaeling army has any movement left, so they can't reach to attack straight away. But you can attack the Hellspire tribe on turn 6 if you want. And if they don't come out of Grayling Moot, then you can use the same sort of tricks that you used before. Set up your troops in raiding camp stance and start recruiting while declaring war on them to lure them out to attack you, or put half of your factions in ambush stance and leave like a single lord by themselves, perhaps not an ambush stance, that kind of thing. Try to lure them out, and then you should be able to defeat them as long as they don't have the garrison there. It may actually not be the best idea for your campaign to attack Hellspire immediately though. They don't have any infrastructure built up as yet, so there's not really much wealth to be gained by conquering them. It is satisfying to take Skaeling on turn 4 and then Hellspire on turn 6, and you feel like you've made a lot of progress, but doesn't necessarily advance you that far. Another thing to consider is that it will give you vision on the Hmong and Aegol, and they'll declare war on you most likely. It's not necessarily too much of a concern, but that's something to consider as well. The choice is up to you what you do from here. This is just a quick 4-turn guide to get you started on your Wulfrik Norsca campaign, and then you can decide what direction you want to go from there. So I hope you enjoyed this guide, and you can check out the new ancillaries that have been added with the Twisted and Twilight DLC. And yeah, thanks guys, that's all I got.
We fought monsters, and we became